Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? My name is Tom Hill. I'm a senior advisor at the National Council for Behavioral Health, and I'm also a gay man in long-term recovery from addiction, and I'm honored to serve as your co-host today. Welcome, and yes, we do have sound. So welcome to the 2020 Recovery Month Luncheon. This is an inaugural virtual event in celebration of the 31st Annual Recovery Month and millions of people who are navigating pathways to recovery. Now, when we say pathways to recovery, you may be in recovery from mental or substance use disorders, or both. You may be practicing abstinence or harm reduction. You may be using medication to assist your recovery. You may get your recovery support in church basements or from the pulpit. And you may be a family member or an ally or a service professional. We welcome everybody. And hospitality is indeed a recovery value, and we are honored, along with our many host organizations, to welcome you as our guests to our table today. 2020 has been a wild ride. Someone texted me a while back and said that we should get 2 extra years for recovery for the year 2020 alone. Throughout this year, we've learned new ways to be in the world, new ways to participate in the world, new ways to see the world. We've also learned about amazing health inequities that we knew were there, but have been glaringly obvious. And so we've been in a process of really looking at how we instigate recovery and how we nurture recovery in places where it is needed and who's been left out of the picture. And this has brought a lot of soul searching in terms of our recovery movement, looking at these various pieces of how we can do better. Today's luncheon is more than an event, it's an invitation. And so we invite you to be our guests, to come together in community, to deepen our awareness of the many facets of recovery, and demonstrate the power of recovery. It is an invitation to learn, to be entertained, to break bread together, to be nourished and nurtured, and to celebrate the transformative power of life and of our lives. So thank you for accepting the invitation. I'm excited to guide you through what I know will be a powerful and passionate experience. So what can we expect today? Throughout the event, you'll hear from 5 diverse individuals telling about their personal recovery journeys. We're calling them recovery message carriers. That term was coined by Bill White, excuse me, and we think it has a pertinence and meaning. We hope that they will inspire you to carry the message as well in everything that you say and do in the world in your own fashion. We'll also hear from 2 guest speakers. The Honorable Jim Caron, Director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, we call it ONDCP, who will give remarks and deliver a presidential proclamation. And Vice Admiral Jerome M. Adams, the Surgeon General of the United States. And he will reflect on the state of our world, especially as it pertains to recovery. In addition, we will feature 2 artists, a rap musician who tells his story of recovery through lyrics, and a spoken word artist whose powerful message of recovery is downright infectious. And as promised, we will break bread. I hope you brought something really good to eat, because I did. We will break out into tabletop discussions. And if you've ever been to a luncheon, part of it is you hear speakers and you sit down at the table and you have a chance to talk to people at the table that you might not know. And so during the breakout session, we're going to have that experience virtually, where we'll come together. There'll be, 15 to 20 people in the room, and we'll talk about just some things of what brought us here today, and have a chance to just hear each other and be with each other and bear witness. And that's a very powerful experience. So I hope you enjoy that. We're calling it a luncheon because that's what it's called. But it's really any meal that fits your time zone, which is why we're doing the luncheon in the East Coast at 3:30 p.m. Before we get started, I am privileged to be joined by a true friend and respected colleague, Marielle Huffnagel. And Marielle and I have had shared passion for building a recovery movement that encompasses all communities and experiences, calls out and eradicates stigma and discrimination, and lifts barriers so that everyone can achieve recovery on their own terms, in their own cultural settings, and in their own communities. I've known Marielle for a long time, and I'm really, really honored to co-host this event with her. So thank you, Marielle, for being my co-host throughout the entire planning process and also today, and I'll turn it over to you. There you go, Marielle.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's my privilege to call you my friend and a mentor, and working beside you is always a joy. Thank you to our generous sponsors and our incredible planning group, whom without today's event would not have been possible. Thank you, National Council, for taking on this event, which is a true testimony to your continued dedication as an organization in lifting up the voice of individuals with lived experience and ensuring that the behavioral health system is holistic and person-centered. And perhaps most importantly, thank you all for joining us. I am so honored and I am so excited for today. Once homeless and hungry, formerly incarcerated, and a sex trafficking survivor, I am here before you today proudly living in recovery from a mental health and a substance use disorder since 2007. I am committed to using my lived experience and my privilege to share hope, smash stigma, and dismantle and transform systems. The last 6 months have been tremendously challenging for everybody, but especially destabilizing for the recovery community. The COVID-19 pandemic, as Tom said in the beginning, has intersected with the overdose epidemic, exacerbating the addiction crisis and spotlighting the stark health disparities being experienced by Black, Indigenous, and people of color, those of a lower socioeconomic status, LGBTQIA folks, and others with marginalized identities. For many of us, our daily routines have been interrupted, we have become isolated, and our various recovery support services have been derailed. For some of us, you have been expected to act as essential workers, potentially without being valued or treated as such. For some of us, we have experienced unexpected challenges around employment, education, housing, and/or healthcare. Regardless, though, of our exact individual circumstances, collectively, we have risen to the challenge with grit and with resilience. I see you, we see you, I hear you, and we hear you. And we are so glad that you are here with us today. Today's event is a step forward in a national movement, a virtual leap in our work to create a paradigm shift in the way that addiction is viewed and treated, in the way that mental health is viewed and treated, shattering stigma, facilitating better treatment, harm reduction, and recovery support services, and striving to identify and remove the myriad of barriers of discrimination. It's also a chance to stop talking about the tragedy of addiction and start focusing on the hope and the light that is recovery. To acknowledge that not only is recovery possible and is it real, but it should be the expectation. Our theme for today's event is unifying our voices, creating connections, celebrating recovery. My hope is that together we can do all of those things, and that this luncheon, brunchin, dinner, snack, whatever you want to call it, can serve as an invitation for us to join together and build a stronger, more united, more inclusive, and more just recovery movement. This is a watershed moment, and we must remain vigilant through an ongoing effort to marshal in lasting change for all. I'm in. Are you?
I'm in too, Marielle. You know that. And thanks to everyone today for joining us here and everyone watching on Facebook Live. We welcome you with open arms and hearts. And now that you know about us, let us learn a little bit about you. We have a couple of poll questions to get to know who we have with us today. First
So
one,
I know, I was just going to say, Tom, I know that people, when that silence, which was a little deafening, were starting to put in the chat where they were from. I saw Boston, I saw Wisconsin, I saw Pittsburgh. What did you see?
Look at these numbers now. We have folks all over the country. We have folks internationally. We have folks from Alaska. That's not lunch, that's probably breakfast.
Hawaii.
And looks like the Midwest is sort of taking the lead. But the amazing towns and places that people, states all over the country that people are doing in the chat box is just sort of amazing as well.
So I think we just shared the results with everybody. Hopefully everyone can see. Tom is right. The Midwest is, racing ahead, which is so exciting because I feel like oftentimes this event is very East Coast heavy. So now that we know where you are from, why don't we find out what your relationship to recovery is? Tom, are these multiple choice?
I think you can only pick one, but I'm not, people will let us know if you can do more than one.
So throw it in the chat. Throw it in the chat because I know that I have more than one relationship to recovery. I love what we're getting in the chat.
Absolutely.
It's so personal.
Looks like we have a fair amount of clinicians.
Somebody said all of it. Love it.
Yeah.
I see you, Leah.
Okay.
Right, let's see.
So it looks like we have
results.
a very diverse crowd with us today. Before we kick off, I wanted to go over a few quick housekeeping items with you. The first is that your microphone will be muted during the presentation portion of the program, and the host will unmute you when we do the breakout sessions. If you need to step away from your computer, please turn your camera off. If you have any words of encouragement or questions for presenters, please place them in the chat box. I don't think we have any problem with that with this crowd because people are very active on the chat box, which we love. As you do, please keep your chat conversations respectful. Your questions and comments will be visible to all. The last couple of things are closed captions are available, and you may choose to turn the captions on by clicking the CC icon in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. We've also provided a link to an external transcription in the chat box. And for technical assistance in general, and also specifically to closed caption, please enter either private chat, and you can private chat your question to technical assistance in the chat box, or you can email conference@thenationalcouncil.org. So that's out of the way. Let's kick off today's program. It is now my absolute pleasure to introduce our first recovery message carrier, Kateri Cordes. She is the executive director at White Bison, which is an American Indian nonprofit charitable organization that's nationwide, but based in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So they say that the pathway to recovery starts with a single step. For Kateri, it involved nearly 2,700 miles worth of single steps. I first met Kateri when she was 16 years old, and after a year of battling meth, alcohol, and other drugs, Kateri joined a White Bison walk across the United States to help raise addiction for substance use disorders and domestic violence. That experience, amazing as it was, helped put her on a pathway to recovery, and she's never looked back. So let's hear Kateri's story.
Kulamansi, Kateri Koyas and Ganawete. Nia Ma'ekanu. Hello, my name is Kateri Koyas and I am from the Mohican Nation, and I am a proud person in long-term recovery. And for me, that means I have not used alcohol or drugs in the last 8.5 years. When I started first using alcohol and drugs, it was as a teenager, and I spent my childhood kind of getting bullied a lot and being really shy, and we got picked on for being poor. So I started to use alcohol and drugs as a way to connect to people, and it made me feel like I had a place. You know, it made me feel good and outgoing, and it made me feel like I could make friends. But as time went on, I felt myself getting out of control. So I wrote my mom at least 20 letters begging her to put me into treatment, but I didn't have the courage to give those to her. So how I found recovery is through an organization called White Bison, and they provide culturally based programs and trainings that are geared towards recovery and prevention of alcohol and substance use. At the age of 16, I got invited to go on a walk across the United States from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. And we did it to help raise awareness for domestic violence on women and children. And it was, when I got to LA, I was 2 days sober and going through withdrawals. But it was the very first time that I really got to be around my culture. So we would walk or run by day, and we would set up camp at night and spend time in talking circles and ceremony and pray and smudge. And I got to learn about my culture, and I got to be around people that were in recovery too. So for 3.5 months, we walked from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. And that's how I started on my path to Wellbriety. And Wellbriety is about being balanced mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, and also living a sober life. So I've been in Wellbriety for 8.5 years. And because of that, I'm now a proud mother of 2 beautiful children. My daughter is 6, my son is almost 3, and I have a really wonderful partner, and I'm proud to serve as the executive director of White Bison, which is the very organization that saved my life. So thanks for letting me share a little piece of my story with you all. Anybody who's struggling in addiction, I'd like to say that you're not alone, and that there's a lot of resources and big hearts out there to help. And for those that are on your path to recovery right now, congratulations to you. Keep on going. And I'm really proud and honored to celebrate this Recovery Month with you. Thank you very much, Anushik.
Kateri, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being my friend. And thank you for being a tremendous voice of inspiration and power. I know that your story will inspire many because it surely inspires me. For many people in recovery, sharing stories is a way that we speak the language of the heart. We build connection with each other. We support each other. However, telling our stories publicly has a broader ripple effect. It also takes a very certain kind of courage. Our next guest is B-Rain, also known as We Are Cloud Gang. Brian is an artist and a songwriter known for his cerebral lyrics and uses his music to tell his recovery story. Brian has been in recovery for 13 years, during which he has released more than 50 songs that reflect the various stages of his recovery journey. When he's not touring and sharing his We Recover Together message, he is giving back by working with recovery houses and running a music program for youth. without further ado, let's hit it.
What's up, guys? My name is B. Rain, and I just want to thank the National Council of Behavioral Health and the Recovery Month Luncheon for giving me this opportunity to come and bring some of my music to you. So I'm an addict in long-term recovery with over 13 years. My clean date is May 5th, 2007. And I'm honored with the opportunity to be able to create music and perform it all across the country. I'm a national touring artist. We go around and create sober events and sober concerts in live music venues to be able to allow people in recovery to come to a safe environment and enjoy music, enjoy the live music atmosphere. It's truly an honor to be of service in this way. And I really just hope that you guys enjoy this. I'm only here for a few minutes, so we're going to get it started. So wherever you're at in this time of COVID and craziness and trying to maintain sobriety, if you're watching this on Zoom, I just want you to enjoy your time. Maybe get some headphones, turn this up. Like I said, we got a few minutes together to share in the universal language, which is music. Let's go. Yeah. All I want, a little bit of peace. Yeah. All I want, will you remember me? All I want, only time will tell. Yeah. I gotta take them L's just to get up on the shelf. I was broke down to the pieces. This is stuff that I needed. Somebody rap what they been through, how they made it out and succeeded. Said I got a pistol gripping it tightly. Got a judge that wanna indict me. Never gonna know when to lay my head down or where the karma gon' bite me. Just full circle that come back. Clear view with no contacts. I did the work and I paid dues. Not the same dude that I was then. Never been an overnight success. Cold nights and them sweats under a dome light when I'm stressed. I know my story got a purpose. I saw the bush be burning. It told me that I'm made for this. I gotta get through the surface. I was put here for the broken, the underviewed and not noticed. The ones of you that never thought that you could ever get through that moment. I've been here, but it still hurts. I don't reach for that pill first. Let go of the old me, even though it's so familiar. Woke up to a new dawn. Cut the cord, then I moved on. Took a second to look back. I realized that I'm too strong. All I want is a little bit of peace. All I want, will you remember me? All I want, only time will tell. I gotta take them L's just to get up on the shelf. They say I got success. They say I'm not too stressed. Just cause my day-to-day don't look the same, don't say I'm not depressed. I never said that I'm perfect. I'ma bleed it in these verses. I've been there and I done that. Let me carry all the burden. Long nights where I never thought my life they would've bet it on. That sound right, but I bet it's wrong. I'm a Klondike when I get us on and what? Do it all for the team, though. Out here, they be living our dream, though. Online with no free throws, and they found us without Nemo. How many y'all can't stand me? I do it all for my Grammy. She passed after the last album. I do it all for my family. Raised 2 kids, and I got a wife. 3 albums, we not alike. You pay for press, I'm not impressed. Impress me just to get a like. Damn. No need for no cosign. Got a record deal in my own mind. Been independent this whole time. Come on, bring it back. No need for no cosign. Got a record deal in my own mind. Been independent this whole time. All I want is a little bit of peace. All I want, will you remember me? All I want, only time will tell. I gotta take them L's just to get up on the shelf. All I want. Yeah, man, sometimes all we want to do is just create something that's gonna help somebody else. We might not think that we're the best. We might not think that we can actually accomplish it. But no matter what, as long as you put one foot in front of the other and stay clean just for the day, it's going to make the journey all worth it. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey along the way and who you got with you, man. Let's go. Yeah, when you work so hard, get the blood to the bone. Wonder when you come at home, you ain't never been there, so you sit there with your kid there, wanna be on your phone. Then you wonder why you wanna get high, living that lie, it'll be fine. Thinking that it's gonna get better with time, and ain't no amount of money gonna change your mind. Every time you're behind the wheel, all alone, and you try to feel, wanna end it all, but that time will heal. Gotta let go of that dollar bill. I don't need the money, cause I'ma make a difference. Money make the world go around, but it don't make them listen. I try to write my eulogy, I got 100 pages, started from the bottom. Come on, that's an understatement. That's an understatement. That's an understatement. Started from the bottom. Come on, that's an understatement. I done came a long way on this journey. I wanna see the day I be worthy. Second guessing since I was an adolescent. I got so many questions, I know this is the life I'm destined. I done came a long way on this journey. I wanna see the day I be worthy. Second guessing since I was an adolescent. I got so many questions, I know this is the life I'm destined. Dollar for your dreams and a nickel for your nightmare. You pay the price and this life ain't gon' fight fair. Can't take it with you, so why you really been worried about it? What's the issue? Act like you can't be buried without it. You can dress the outside, but you're not gonna take my soul. I know it's about time, all that talking getting old. You see my life now, but I've been on both sides of the fence. The world's in my hand, it all started with a couple cents. I tried to write my eulogy, I got 100 pages, started from the bottom. That's an understatement. That's an understatement. That's an understatement. Started from the bottom. Come on, that's an understatement. I done came a long way on this journey. I wanna see the day I be worthy. Second guessing since I was an adolescent. I got so many questions, I know this is the life I'm destined. I done came a long way on this journey. I wanna see the day I be worthy. Second guessing since I was an adolescent. I got so many questions, I know this is the life I'm destined. Look, man, I know right now we're just sitting on Zoom together. We're having a virtual recovery luncheon, you know. But the fact that each and every one of us has the opportunity and the ability to make a difference in somebody's life. The fact that we come together for the sole purpose of making recovery better, making recovery easier. If you're dedicated to doing that and saving one more person, sing the song. I tried to write my eulogy, I got 100 pages, started from the bottom. That's an understatement. That's an understatement. That's an understatement. Started from the bottom. Come on, that's an understatement. I done came a long way on this journey. I wanna see the day I be worthy. Second guessing since I was an adolescent. I got so many questions, I know this is the life I'm destined. I done came a long way on this journey. I wanna see the day I be worthy. Second guessing since I was an adolescent. I got so many questions, I know this is the life I'm destined. Look, man, my name is B Rain. I know a live virtual concert via Zoom or whatever you guys are watching this on is not the easiest thing to get into. But look, I want you to know that music is a universal language, and so is what we do in recovery. We can reach somebody. Each and every single one of you watching this right now can reach somebody. If you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone, if you're willing to put the action in and willing to be humble and loving and caring and without judgment, man, we can make a difference together. So I just want to thank you guys again for allowing me this opportunity. Like I said, my name is B Rain. You can find me on any social media platform, stream the music on any streaming platform. I love you guys. Have a good day.
Woo!
Wow. I don't know where to go from there. So touched, so inspired. And what this makes me think of is how incredibly talented and creative and intelligent and smart every single person in recovery I've ever met is. And just that the sky is the limit for what we are capable of and who we are capable of being and how broad our reach is. So thank you, Brian, for sharing your message and your music with us on stage, off stage, on Zoom, off Zoom. At this time, I am super proud to introduce the Honorable Jim Carroll, Director of the ONDCP Office of National Drug Control Policy. Jim gets it. I don't know how else to say it. Jim gets it. And he has been a tremendous ally to the recovery community in his position within ONDCP. I am grateful for him, as well as we all should be. Today, Director Carroll will offer a presidential proclamation and some remarks in recognition of Recovery Month.
Thank you, Muriel, for that kind introduction. And thank you for sharing your story with us, Kateri. I can think of no better way to open an event like this than with a story of hope and recovery from a young leader such as yourself. You and Muriel are outstanding examples of the new generation of leaders who are changing the conversation about addiction and recovery and creating new possibilities for all Americans affected by addiction. On behalf of President Trump and my entire team at the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, I'd like to thank the National Council on Behavioral Health for hosting this year's Recovery Month Luncheon. It's undeniable that this year's National Recovery Month celebration is a bit different from the 30 that preceded it. We are all learning to connect and celebrate virtually. The COVID-19 pandemic, of course, has had an especially hard impact on those in early recovery and on those seeking help for alcohol or other drug problems. As many Americans know all too well, the pandemic has led to increased feelings of isolation and loneliness. These alone place those in recovery, especially those in early months of recovery, at increased risk. For those suffering from substance use disorder, isolation can increase the risk of fatal overdose. This is deeply concerning to me and my entire team. Despite current challenges, however, there's much to celebrate, and we should never lose sight of that. I am grateful to each of you joining us today and for the work that you do to save lives and make recovery possible for more Americans. In selecting this year's theme, Join the Voices of Recovery, Celebrating Connections, the Recovery Month planning partners were mindful of the critical importance of connections to recovery and the challenges we all face staying connected in these times. This theme is echoed in President Trump's 2020 National Alcohol and Drug Addiction Recovery Month proclamation. The recovery community has shown remarkable creativity and resilience in the shift from in-person to virtual support. You inspire all of us working in this arena, showing us what is possible and why it is so important to keep pushing ahead. And I thank you for that. Today is an example of that creativity and resilience. So while we're not able to gather around tables for a shared meal and celebration of the outstanding work done by the Recovery Month planning partners, we are able to gather virtually and to make our celebration available to participants from around the globe. So thank you for making this possible and for extending our reach. As I've noted elsewhere, the COVID pandemic has also resulted in elevated levels of unemployment, especially in types of work that are often sought by people in early recovery. We know that employment is essential to sustaining recovery and fully rejoining and contributing to one's community. That is why, as the economy picks up steam and the United States enters the Great American Comeback, we need to be vigilant to ensure that people in recovery are not left out of it. My team is working across all the federal agencies to expand employment opportunities for people in recovery, to encourage the development of more recovery-friendly workplaces where no one should be afraid to ask for help for an alcohol or other drug problem, and where a welcoming and supportive workplace awaits someone after treatment. First Lady Melania Trump is working to bring attention to this issue as well. On September 3rd, she joined me, Surgeon General Jerome Adams, and Senior Economic Advisor Larry Kudlow to welcome recovery-friendly employers, people in recovery, and advocates such as Patty McCarthy of Faces and Voices of Recovery, and North Dakota First Lady Catherine Burgum to the White House to highlight the importance of hiring people in recovery and developing these recovery-friendly workplaces. And we heard from one courageous woman named Lisa Schuler, who is using her recovery to help others. Lisa shared that in 2018, after 36 years of being in recovery in silence, she chose to go public with her story. She said, "I decided to take what I had been told was my biggest liability and make it my biggest strength." So she opened a coffee shop in Pennsylvania called Hope and Coffee, where the staff is entirely made up of people in recovery. What a wonderful contribution she's making. As I've shared before, I have a personal connection to this work. A family member who struggled with opioid dependence and who thankfully is in recovery today. I know how critical it is to ensure that Americans have access to effective treatment and recovery support. And I have seen firsthand that recovery is possible and that it transforms lives. Speaking with my family member and other people in recovery gives me hope and motivation that I need to continue doing this job. It is proof that what we do matters, that individuals suffering from addiction can go on to live long, productive, and loving lives. Each of you is living proof of that. And each of you is serving our nation when you give recovery a face and a voice. For that, I thank each of you. I call on you to keep up the good fight, to not become discouraged, and to be relentless in your dedication to recovery. Each year, of course, the President issues a National Alcohol and Drug Addiction Recovery Month proclamation. President Trump's 2020 proclamation describes National Alcohol and Drug Addiction Recovery Month as a time to honor and celebrate the millions of Americans who have found a pathway from addiction to a life of renewed purpose. It is indeed that, but it's also, of course, a time to celebrate and thank all of those who helped along the way, whether they be family members, friends, first responders, doctors, pastors, counselors, or fellow journeyers in recovery. It is customary that at the close of my remarks at a Recovery Month event, I present copies of the President's National Alcohol and Drug Addiction Recovery Month proclamation to the host. And the pandemic is not going to put a halt to that. While circumstances prevent me from presenting proclamations in person, I am pleased to let you know that my team will be mailing copies of the President's proclamation to Tom Hill, Muriel Huffnagel, and each of our speakers. May God bless you all for the work you do as leaders in the recovery community, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Director Carroll. Thank you, Jim. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. I know that your job requires many priorities, and from day one in your job, you have made recovery one of them. I personally thank you for being my friend, and I personally thank you for being a friend to the entire recovery community. Thank you so much. Our next recovery message carrier is using this digital platform to share his experience and to help others not only survive, but to thrive. Juan Velez Cort's recovery story is one of resilience. As a child, he battled anxiety, depression, and obsessive compulsive disorder while living in an abusive and dysfunctional household. As a socially isolated youth, he survived 3 different suicide attempts. Today, Juan works as a peer services coordinator at the Puerto Rico Mental Health and Anti-Addiction Services Administration and uses his lived experience as a means to light the way for others. Through his storytelling, he reminds us all always to focus and celebrate the wins. Let's hear from Juan.
My name is Juan Velez Cort. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I'm eternally thankful to be part of this incredible event that, despite all of the challenges happening around the world, we continue celebrating Recovery Month. We continue celebrating that recovery is possible in a time where many people, many of our recovery brothers and sisters and members of communities that may need that motivation right now. Recovery to me means that I can look back and recognize that every negative, every incredible, every scary experience that I had in my past means that I became better. I became more resilient, and I utilized all of those strategies to the point that today, as a proud husband, son, homeowner, I never thought these things would be achievable in my life. I work in Puerto Rico as the peer specialist support services provider. So we connect people around all of the island, ensuring that people, when they feel alone, they can have that support system. And despite the challenges right now, where maybe physically we remain distant, socially and spiritually, it is more important now than ever before to remain connected, because maybe I can be very motivated today speaking to all of you, but I guarantee that somebody in this event right now is witnessing all of these different activities, seeing all of the different pieces being put together and saying, wow, despite everything, recovery is still being celebrated. And that can be the motivation that we need. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to need somebody else because nobody here is stronger or more powerful than the other person. Recovery to me is not a competition. Recovery to me is about building communities, making sure that we are unified, that it's simply about exchanging experiences, recognizing that it is okay to be frustrated. It is okay to be exhausted, but we must also exhaust the resources that we have around our communities. That's why, to me, when we talk about creating connections, it's about building that local support system, whether it be getting creative and doing online and virtual activities or anything else. I never thought in my life that I would achieve these things right now. So my way to give back is to always be able to motivate everybody, connect with them spiritually to ensure that that is possible. And I know for a fact that just by you being part of this event, you're all being part of the change that many people need. So please consider enjoying this event, these other activities. And Recovery Month, even though it happens on September of each year, let's never lose sight that many people want to be able to celebrate recovery throughout the year because they need that motivation. They want that motivation, and we can provide that for them. So I'm eternally grateful once again from Puerto Rico to the world. In Espanol, in English, it's all about connecting, showing that recovery is possible, motivating other individuals throughout our experience. Let's stay motivated. And if we're not, guess what? It's okay, because we are here to support each other, to get each other back up and continue on that road to recovery.
Thank you so much for your message, Juan. This is a very emotional day. Thanks for motivating us to always celebrate recovery and reminding us that we are bigger than the challenges we face within ourselves, within our homes and families, within our communities. Really, really appreciate your message. Thank you so much. At this point in our program, we will take a moment to learn a little bit more about what the National Council for Behavioral Health is doing to advance recovery. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce my boss and my friend, the National Council's President and CEO, Chuck Ignolia. Chuck will speak to our organization's ongoing efforts to ensure that everyone who seeks long-term recovery receives the treatment and recovery supports they need to get there. Chuck, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Tom. What an absolute pleasure to be with all of you today. I'm so grateful. Isn't it strange that COVID has allowed us actually to have more people participate in this event, to share in today's celebration? Tom, I'm so grateful to you for your leadership, your humble service, to Marielle for your leadership today, to all of our planning partners, all of the National Council staff that have chipped in to make this happen, all of the speakers today. What an absolute pleasure to be here. You know, Recovery Month is a time that's set aside to remind us that recovery happens every day, right? And for us to celebrate this reality. Isn't it funny that we need to be reminded of something we see and maybe even experience every day? But Recovery Month isn't just about us, is it? It's about giving hope to others who may be struggling and reminding the whole country that recovery happens, that it is the expectation and not the exception. I think that Recovery Month also plays other important roles for us, doesn't it? It reminds us that people in recovery make important contributions every day within our community, whether they're supporting prevention, treatment, or helping others on their recovery journey. We are challenged to recognize this truth, and we need to make sure that it is lived in everything that we do. And I know that is something that the National Council is so committed to doing with our 3,000 organizational members. It also occurs to me that Recovery Month is not just a celebration, but also a challenge. We are at an important time in the history of our country. I cannot think of another time in my life when there has been as much concern and attention to making sure that people have access to evidence-based treatment as there is right now. Voices across the political spectrum are calling for increased investments in substance use prevention, treatment, and recovery support services. And as a field, we need to use this occasion. How are we making access to care easier? How are we making sure that people get effective care and support? This may mean challenging antiquated notions or rules that make it difficult for people to access care, or for treatment organizations to tweak protocols, to incorporate emerging evidence, and to respond to community needs. It could also mean embracing approaches that have not been used before, such as harm reduction, or creating low barrier access to medication for the treatment of opioid use disorders. And if COVID has taught us anything, it has demonstrated our ability to change and adapt, to do things, to be stronger, and to believe that anything is possible. And speaking of COVID, the pandemic has reminded us that the burden of disease in this country is experienced differently, just as more people from African American and Latinx communities have borne the brunt of COVID. The same is true when it comes to substance use disorders. The National Council is trying to lead this discussion in our members to make sure that we are responding and creating appropriate outreach and support for all people in all communities. So I'm so glad this program has been great already. I know it's only gonna get better. I'm so excited to be with you all. Let's all reconnect to our passion to make recovery possible. Let's celebrate this reality even as we commit to future change. Thanks, Tom, for everything. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Chuck. Thank you for those kind words and for the encouragement about focusing on recovery through any times, certainly now. It is now my honor to introduce you to our next guest speaker, the Surgeon General of the United States, Vice Admiral Jerome M. Adams. As the 20th Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. Adams has created several initiatives to tackle our nation's most pressing health issues, including the opioid and overdose epidemics. Dr. Adams issued the first Surgeon General's advisory, the first one in 13 years, urging more Americans to carry naloxone. And I don't have to remind anybody on this webcast and this event the importance of naloxone and that we all carry it, and many of us do. He also released Facing Addiction in America, the Surgeon General's Spotlight on Opioids, and a digital postcard calling for the cultural shift in a way Americans think about, talk about, and respond to these overlapping opioid and overdose crises. I've heard the Surgeon General speak many times, and each time his message is focused on a wonderful mixture of his personal experiences and his professional expertise in handling any crisis any epidemic, any health system, any public health thing that happens in our country. So please help me welcome the Honorable Dr. Adams.
I'm United States Surgeon General Dr. Jerome Adams, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today at the National Council for Behavioral Health Recovery Luncheon. Let me first start off by acknowledging all of you, the health leaders and community partners participating in today's discussion. Thank you for keeping your focus trained on ensuring that those battling substance use disorder find the help they need to recover. Today in America, an estimated 2.1 million people struggle with an opioid use disorder. People with opioid use disorder are our friends, our neighbors, our family, our patients, and perhaps some of us here today. Like many Americans, for me, the opioid crisis isn't just pressing, it's personal. Many of you have heard me say, my younger brother Philip recently finished serving prison time for crimes committed to support his addiction. Philip suffered from untreated anxiety and depression, and he unfortunately turned to drugs to self-medicate. I share my family's struggle to illustrate that addiction can happen to anyone, even the brother of the United States Surgeon General. And by sharing my story, I hope to give others the courage to share theirs, because together I know we can fight stigma. Many of you have heard me say, I truly believe stigma is one of our biggest killers. And unless our loved ones and their families feel comfortable seeking help, we'll never be able to reach those who need it the most. I want to note that stigma and other obstacles to health and care are particularly apparent in disadvantaged communities, including minority and rural communities that may not have an abundance of resources. These communities have been disproportionately impacted by the opioid epidemic, and not surprisingly, they've also been hit hard by COVID-19. The reasons are many, but they're rooted in pre-existing medical as well as pre-existing social conditions that conspire to reduce resilience, opportunity, and health. Conditions that include substance use disorders and the many upstream factors that lead to them. The fact is, when we speak of health in general, or of COVID-19 specifically, we usually are thinking about health care. And access to affordable and high-quality health care is critical, but we know that health actually begins at home. It begins in communities designed to provide income and financial security, education, and access to transportation. We know that communities that nurture health have safe places to be active and easy access to healthy, affordable food and housing. And especially in the midst of an historic social justice moment for our nation, we must acknowledge that healthy communities have to be free of structural and institutional barriers related to race and bias. And while it's critical to understand and address the physical harms that can result from COVID-19, we must also acknowledge the threats to mental health from this pandemic. COVID-19 has altered healthcare delivery and access to mental health services. And because of that, I'm deeply concerned about the consequences on the well-being of all citizens. We know that emotional and economic stress can also lead to or worsen substance misuse, as individuals try to cope by turning to substances such as tobacco and alcohol, or are just unable to maintain healthy patterns of sleep and exercise. And according to a recent issue brief released by the American Medical Association, more than 40 states have reported increases in opioid-related mortality. So how can we reduce this loss of life? Well, I'd remind you that in April of 2018, I issued the first Surgeon General's advisory in more than 10 years, highlighting the importance of naloxone access and use as a way to curb opioid morbidity and mortality. Since its release, I'm glad to report a dramatic uptick in the prescriptions written for this life-saving drug in communities all across the country. In fact, since the start of this administration, we've seen a more than 400% increase in naloxone dispensed. Further good news is that together, we've made headway in improving treatment for substance misuse during this time. We've deregulated telemedicine, making ongoing care for medical conditions safe, accessible, and convenient for patients and for their healthcare teams. We've also made medication-assisted treatment for opioid use disorder available via telehealth. patients can now start buprenorphine and be maintained on buprenorphine and methadone entirely via telehealth. It is also now possible to receive take-home doses of methadone and buprenorphine. Virtual options for individual and group therapy are also available. To learn more about substance misuse and coronavirus, visit samhsa.gov/coronavirus. Providing patients and loved ones with reliable and timely information to high-quality treatment programs is critical. It really is a matter of life and death. While these treatments and services are increasingly available and accessible, we still have far to go to ensure that every person, regardless of their race, ethnicity, gender, or geography, receives the support they need to recover. And like many of you, I want to help turn the faucet off, not just mop up the flood. That's why we all must continue to promote and invest in interventions that prevent addiction in the first place. We must treat mental health conditions. We must raise awareness of and work to prevent adverse childhood experiences. And we must continue to promote trauma-informed care. While we're all going through what is a difficult time in our nation's history, I want you to know that I remain steadfast in encouraging Americans to use healthy mechanisms to cope. This includes physical activity, healthy eating, support groups, medication as needed, and counseling. We know that doing these things will provide resilience against both the physical and the mental health harms of COVID-19. So let me finish by emphasizing that our best immediate defense against COVID-19 are simple public health measures that I refer to as my 3 W's. Number 1, wash your hands. Number 2, wear a mask. And number 3, watch your distance, meaning stay at least 6 feet from others outside your household and avoid crowded indoor spaces. These are truly unprecedented times. We've all been deeply affected by this pandemic, but despite the challenges, I remain steadfast in my resolve to use the losses, lessons, and the focus on health and equity as a result of COVID-19 as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's an opportunity to make our communities healthier, more resilient, and more just. So thank you all again for everything you do to help with recovery. Stay safe and get your flu shot.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Adams, for sharing about your brother Philip, championing that stigma is in fact a killer, and bringing awareness to the very real structural and institutional barriers related to race and bias. Let's turn the faucet off, not just mop up the flood. There is still so much work for us to do, but I am proud of all that we have accomplished, and I appreciate you, Dr. Adams, allowing for us to reflect on that. Our next recovery message carrier, Chantel Hammonds, is co-founder and executive director of Peters Place RVA, which stands for Richmond, Virginia. She is a certified peer recovery specialist and a peer recovery coach. As a queer woman of color, Chantel is a fierce advocate committed to representing a voice that so often is excluded from the conversation. Today, she will talk about her experience with substance use as a teen, homelessness, and how recovery has enabled her to live her authentic life and advocate for others. Let's hear from Chantel.
Hi everyone, my name is Chantel Hammonds. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a person in long-term recovery. And what that means for me is that I have not used alcohol or illicit drugs since September 14, 2015. I'm going to speak a little bit about my recovery journey, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. When I was growing up, substance use disorder was rampant in my family. I was introduced to it at a very young age. My immediate family did not use, but my extended family did. I felt more drawn to them and what they were doing. And over the years, it just developed and continued to spiral. It ended up with me landing in jail, ending up homeless and living on the streets. And when I got sober in a homeless shelter. And for me, that's a major part of my story because that pushed me to change my life, get things together, and to start pursuing a better life. When I got into recovery, it was a choice of either suicide or get my life together because I had nothing else to lose. And in recovery, we have this notion of like a bottom, that an individual has to hit a bottom. One thing that I heard in recovery is that like some of us don't hit that bottom, we die before we do because we lived in that bottom our entire lives. And that was my case. So the only thing it was for me was to get better and to get my life together. Navigating recovery supports wasn't easy for me as a marginalized person, but I had to decide on whether I was going to destroy my life again or become a better person. So I started building the support that I need. I became a peer support specialist. I am a substance abuse counselor. I am currently in school to get my degree in social work. And I just started building the things that I need. I opened an organization which is called Peter's Place RVA, which is here in Richmond, Virginia. It's the only LGBTQIA plus recovery organization in the state of Virginia and the only organization that offers recovery housing to LGBTQIA plus individuals. And I started getting involved with a lot of different aspects of recovery and what that looks like with recovery support and advocacy. For me, recovery was about change. It's about change as a whole and living a better life. And for me, like I couldn't navigate this program of recovery without changing my life completely, but also helping those in recovery who needed the same support that I did.
Thank you, Chantel. Thank you for sharing your powerful story, your vulnerability, and your brave, brave courage. We now come to the point in our program where we'd like to get to know one another and have you share your voices. Just like if we were together at a real luncheon, where we'd be sitting down at a table and getting to know one another, we are calling these tabletop discussions, where we have time to talk amongst ourselves. You're not going to have a whole lot of time, so we're going to ask people to keep their share short so that all voices can be heard. But it's a chance to just come together, to break bread, and to just celebrate our being together. So I'm going to turn it back over to Marielle, and she'll walk you through the techniques of how this is going to work.
Okay, so we are going to do one 20-minute breakout. I know many of us, me included, are totally zoomed out, right? The Wall Street Journal actually had an article about Zoom fatigue, and I felt that deep in my spirit. However, I really, really want you to stay with us during these breakout sessions. Part of our theme is creating connections. And I don't know about you, but I am craving human connection. These breakout sessions are an opportunity for us to connect. And although, yes, it would certainly be better if we could do it in person around a table, let's make the best of being together virtually. So there's no real formal structure here. Share why you came, or what recovery means to you, or something that you were hit by one of our speakers, or anything else on your mind. But like Tom said, let's be mindful of sharing space and sharing time, and listen with an open mind and an open heart. So what's going to happen logistically is you are automatically and randomly going to be transitioned into a breakout room, at which time you will also be unmuted. You will get an alert when there's 1 minute left. And then once again, you will automatically be transitioned right back to this main room, for us to continue on with the programming. So keep in mind, there will be no formal moderator. We are just randomly being placed into groups. So as soon as everyone gets in there, just, get started, let it flow, and let's connect. Enjoy, and I'll see you soon. just
While we're waiting for our tech folks to get us into those breakout rooms, Marielle, that was just an amazing set of experiences that Chantel talked about, and really looking forward to the other recovery message carriers. All three of them so far have just been absolutely amazing.
I agree. I think that, you know, I am touched by the entertainment. I am touched by the speakers. I am touched by the individuals from the Trump administration that have.
So let's see where we are.
I think we're going to Tom's story. Tom?
Yeah.
Tom on Tom on Tom.
There's a lot of Toms here. So our next message carrier went from being homeless to helping people who were incarcerated path their own pathway toward recovery. At age 48, Tom Gorham was living under freeways and battling alcoholism. Today, he is executive director of an outfit called Options Recovery Services. So let's hear from Tom and a little bit more about his story.
My name is Tom Gorham. I'm the executive director at Options Recovery Services in Berkeley, and I'm also a grateful recovering alcoholic and from substance use disorders, other substance use disorders. I really appreciate this opportunity to share my story of recovery with you. At the age of 48, I had been homeless for over 10 years. My life spiraled. Ironically, I had owned 4 homes and started 2 businesses prior to that. It was raising 2 children with a wife. All that fell apart because of the progression of my disease. I found myself in a Berkeley drug court for what they tell me the 45th time. It was a criminal court, actually, which turned into a drug court recently, and I was surprised to hear the judge not send me to jail, but sent me to a new fledgling program run by Dr. Davita Cody, who was an emergency room doc, who started the program because of what she saw, abused and neglected children, usually with addicted parents in the emergency room. She decided to start this program to help poor people who couldn't get into treatment. Thus, she went into the criminal courts. And the judge sent me over to her. So finally, after hundreds of arrests, they tell me that I finally got a referral to treatment. I ran with it. I didn't get it right away. I spent a couple more trips to jail and until I got it right. The nudge from the judge, as they say. And then from September 8th, 1998, I've never looked back. I was committed at that time to help the population from whence I came. I went back to school. I became a certified counselor, determined to help Dr. Cody build the program. I stayed in school, got a BA and MA, and ultimately got a state license as an MFT so I could help people suffering from mental health and physical challenges that I didn't know how to help. So I've been there over 20 years, and as I said, I'm the executive director now. During that time, I got a letter from a couple inmates at San Quentin Prison. They asked me if I would come in and help them to get better trained to help their fellow inmates who had no access to treatment. 5,000 men with mostly there because of some kind of substance use disorder that couldn't get help. So we did that, and ultimately in 2005, we developed a program for the state, based on what we did at San Quentin, to train mostly lifer inmates to become state certified counselors. I've been doing that ever since and reaching that old population of which I was one. And now there is treatment and access to treatment with our trainees, our certified counselors in 35 California prisons. So with that said, my life is rich and full of meaning and purpose versus the first 48 years when I came into treatment, hopeless and helpless. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm very, very grateful to be able to spend the day with you. So thank you for hearing my story.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom, for reminding us what is possible when passion meets purpose and that it is indeed never too late to choose recovery. And now we have some spoken word for you, our second entertainer. I am proud to have worked closely with Joseph Green over the years. I'm proud to call him a friend, and I am proud to introduce him to you today. Prepare to have your mind blown.
Your story is important. Your story matters.
Dear me, in a dream, I saw the adolescent version of myself leaning against a wall at a middle school dance. Appearing nervous, with our head down, he seemed wanting, if not needing, of some advice. I pulled out a napkin, composed a letter, a literal self-help manual, slipped it into my own prepubescent hand, looked down and read, "Dear me, dance." Though you will not be good at it into your early 20s. Bear witness to how solar systems are created within the orbits of thighs, how stars always burn out yet seem to shine on as you two-step through universe. Don't forget to breathe. If she approaches, it was meant to be. If not, Big Dipper or supernova. You will discover, painfully, the wonder behind dancing is like love. It is not always predicated on the idea that you will always have another there to do it with you. You will often find that you are doing dancing and loving alone. But don't you dare stop. Dear me, or best friend an imaginary turtle could have. Your imagination is stardust, the stuff of fantasies and fairy tales. Careful. Do not get lost in the clouds or blown away by the storm of indecision. There is gravity in your dreams, forces felt but rarely seen, like purpose or faith. Allow only truth to propel you. The forest is thick, wrought with distraction and danger. Hone your instincts. Even after they've betrayed you, our wits, like the blade, are only sharpened through use. Dear me, or future phoenix rising. Addiction and abuse are hidden within the strands of your DNA. For you, there is no such thing as trying drugs. You were raised, having never been taught how to heal while giving in to the pain, only how to mask it or avoid it or dump it at the feet of those who loved you. Abusing substances was never the problem, merely the wrong answer. A poisonous solution that will strip your branches bare, causing you to lose things, most of which the universe will never see fit to give you a second chance with, all of which will break your mother's heart. Dear me, a would-be knight in shining armor, warning, the people labeled broken on arrival cannot be saved, only loved and accepted as you will one day hope to be. Joseph, put down the blades. Pins are not tourniquets, paper, a poor band-aid. It will be years before poetry will send word to save you. Stop it now. Your soul will heal long before those scars do. Dear four-eyed oracle, some wounds won't heal magically with mother's kiss, won't make sense for years to come. This is just a writing exercise. If I could actually give you life as a manuscript, the instructions would simply read, only change the parts where you hurt people. Everything else is miracle. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? You grow up to be me, a shattered but mending, sometimes unemployed, literary freestyle specialist with a vampire's thirst for the universe's lifeblood. And young man, I have loved you all along. Sincerely, Joseph Green. Hello, friends. My name is Joseph Green, and I am a faithful father, present partner, obliging offspring, contributing citizen, recent recovery coach in training, and I can be all of these things because I am a person in long-term recovery. It is an honor to be here-ish with you, celebrating Recovery Month in the middle of what is, I hope, not the first 15 minutes of a post-apocalyptic film. I hope it is instead the beginning of a movie that ends with us knowing one thing to be true. We can't do this alone. From Black Lives Matter to humane immigration policies and practices to women's rights to protecting the lives and civil liberties of LGBTQIA+ communities to merely staying safe and healthy during a freaking global pandemic. A lot is going on. People all over the country are facing these realities and a whole lot more, many of them, while also trying to maintain their recovery or being supportive of somebody in recovery. Let this be the moment where we invite everyone to the table. Let this be the moment when we make amends where amends are due. Let us facilitate hard conversations when needed, be guided by humility, not our egos, and draw strength from our diversity and intersectionality instead of falling for the false security of tribalism. At its very essence, my job is storytelling. When I'm not sharing stories, I'm working with schools, prevention and recovery programs, and nonprofit organizations to help others craft their story for society's good. I do this because I believe that our stories matter, and within them lie the magical power to create empathy, love, and understanding, and aren't those a few things we need more of nowadays? Learn your story. Share your story. But most importantly, listen to the stories of others. If you want to know more about me or the work that I do, you can find me at www.lmsvoice.com. Happy Recovery Month. And now, one last poem. The Ballad of St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes. May we lost causes find, at the height of our sobriety, that which we never found at the bottom of our addiction. Salvation was never there, trust me. I looked often, and with the thorough eye of a man willing to face anyone except his own truth. My truth, a relentless and unforgiving lover who always refused to assume the role of mistress. She would lie with me when I thought I was alone, sit next to me on the train when I thought I was running away, and if I adjusted the frequency just so, I swear I could hear her whisper, "I can set you free." She was there the day I sat shaking in the corner of my drug dealer's kitchen, waiting for him to fall asleep so that I might creep into his stash spot and place a Band-Aid over this bullet wound of an addiction. She was there the day the man who welcomed me in like a son said like Christ to Judas, "I know it was you." Selfish son with sinister intent and sinning fingers, stealing from the cash register his money, his trust, but somehow never his faith. She was there the day my closest friend stopped speaking to me. He recognized the signs, had been through this before, and refused to be on the receiving end of yet another suicide note. She was also there the day I learned that what the world had taught me was a moral failing was in fact a disease, a poison passed effortlessly through the veins of my family tree. She told me on that day, never forget. Recovery is to redemption as love is to forgiveness. Where there is one, you will always find the other. We must fall out of love with punishing ourselves for the pain our actions have inflicted upon others. I'm sorry. Will only ever be a bucket of sand trying to smother a forest fire. And while apologies are an important step, if the universe is ever to extract the remaining usefulness from us, forgiveness has to be an olive branch we eventually extend ourselves. Seek to embody the spirit of St. Jude. Let us use this life and this light and these words as a beacon of hope for anyone who has ever considered themselves a lost cause. We fight for the damagers and the damaged, the feared and the fearful, the breakers and the broken, to remind them that they are not alone, that we are all here hurting and healing together. We fight for the millions we've lost, for their loved ones searching for purpose amongst the embers of lives extinguished far too soon, for entire communities that have been ravaged by a system that has too long punished the crime instead of treating the disease. For those working from within the system, attempting to restore humanity, to restore dignity to spaces too often sacrificed for the financial or political bottom line together. We can create this world the way we would want it to be, not just by knowing what we are fighting against, but by knowing and never forgetting what we are fighting for. Amen.
Tom, you're on mute, my friend.
There we go. Amen indeed, Joseph Green. Thank you so much for your light, for your voice, and for your spoken and even your unspoken words. The transformative power of not only storytelling, but story listening is something that we all embrace, especially in our recovery journeys. And I love that phrase of we are hurting and healing together, because that's what we do when we come together, and that's what we're doing today. So thank you for being here-ish with us. We really appreciate your presence. So last but not least, we're going to hear from our fifth and final recovery message carrier, Julvette Price, a consumer inclusion coordinator at the Behavioral Health Systems in Baltimore, Maryland. When Julvette's not working, she is volunteering in her community. She's deeply invested in her community and using her experience to help others change their life stories as well. Today, Julvette will talk about how recovery from mental health and substance use disorders has given her the ability to change her life, as well as transforming her entire family and community. Let's hear Julvette's story.
My name is Julvette Price. I am a peer support specialist and a registered peer supervisor in the state of Maryland, Baltimore City. I am employed at Behavioral Health Systems, Baltimore, as a peer support coordinator, a consumer inclusion coordinator. I've also had the opportunity on my journey to recovery to be volunteer for the America Vista volunteer, and I volunteer in my community. I'm doing family services and also doing public safety and family court services. To change my life, my story, I had the opportunity to utilize my story to help others to better their life or change their life in the way which they saw fit. So I am very excited. That is how recovery has changed me. It has changed me to a story that seemed to be so gloomy and bleak to a story that helps others and support others, and also at the same time supports me. So I've had the opportunity to do many things, like I've had the opportunity to work inside of this public safety institutions, family institutions. I've had the opportunity to volunteer through faith-based opportunities, create programs for youth and the young adults with family-involved services. And all of that happened for me because of the journey I had to go on to support myself, gave me the ability to support others. Not only did it give me the ability to support my community, I have 3 very lovely children who are adults now, who has the opportunity to support their community also.
Thank you, Julvette. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story, sharing your time, sharing yourself with not just us here on Zoom, but every day. As you may already know, tomorrow is International Recovery Day. International Recovery Day is a free digital event with a global reach, because we know that recovery is not just American, right? Recovery is all over the world. And International Recovery Day promises to be one of a kind and historic online experience this year. Here to talk about the event and to give us some super, super exciting news is event founder, John Winslow.
Thanks, Mariel. Thanks, Tom. And thanks, guys, for everybody that was involved in putting together this fabulous program today. So one of the primary things that International Recovery Day is looking to do, we all know about the ravages of addiction. What we're looking to do is to shift the focus from all the death and destruction and heartache and heartbreak from individuals, families, and communities all around the world, to shift from that over to the hope that is offered through recovery. And so what we're looking to create and have created is an all-inclusive process of folks from all addictions, from all pathways of recovery, all on the same day, to celebrate recovery, to work on reducing the stigma that's out there of addiction, and to offer and hold out a beacon of hope to the world that we can and do recover. So the big news, for those of you that have not heard it, is that tomorrow on the inaugural launch of International Recovery Day, through the help of Director Jim Carroll and Peter Gamond, who's on our conference today, and the other staff from the ONDCP, the Office of National Drug Control Policy, through their help and the Maryland chapter of the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, we are pleased to and thrilled to announce that the White House is going to light up in purple tomorrow in celebration, acknowledgement of Recovery Month and International Recovery Day. So we have heard from folks from all around the world that are excited, that are in recovery, to see that we are pulling together folks from all recovery pathways, all addictions. I was thrilled to see we had somebody from Mongolia that has signed up and part of this event. So folks from all the way, New Zealand, and so we're really thrilled to see this taking place. So one of the things that, what my vision is that over time, we're looking to light up structures from all around the world in purple, our symbolic color of recovery. So we have not only the White House, we have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we have Aloha Towers down in Hawaii, Ben Franklin Bridge, all kinds of structures all over, not only the United States, but all around the world now. My vision is that hopefully not too many years from now, somebody from the International Space Station is going to be able to look down on the globe and see us glowing purple on September 30th. So who knows? All things are possible, as we know. I'm now in my 45th year of continuous recovery. Whoever would have thought that I could have gotten, 35 days together at one point. So all things are possible. And I've heard time and time again about the we concept that I had a counselor that used to drill into us before I got sober, that we can do together what none of us can do alone. I thought that was bull crap. And George proved me absolutely wrong. And he was absolutely right. This is a we thing. We're in it together. I would ask of you two things. Register today if you've not already registered for International Recovery Day. It's free. Just go to internationalrecoveryday.org. The other thing is, if any of you have connections to mainstream media, reach out to them and see if they can help promote with the White House going purple. Let's get as much attention, not only nationally, but around the world for this event tomorrow. Glad to be a part of this thing. Thanks for the opportunity to share this news with you.
Thank you so much, John. Your purple vision for the world on International Recovery Day, the planning you've done to get there, it's just amazing, and I'm so proud to know you and just in all of your leadership. So thank you for making this happen. This is just the first, and it'll get bigger and bigger every year, I know it. The link is in the chat box, so people, please get on and register for that. So we're going to close out, and I just wanted to stop for a moment and tell you how I'm so disappointed we didn't get to break out into those sessions. And you know, things happen. The planning group, we spent all summer planning this event, and really we're looking forward to this idea of people not only watching, but actually being able to come together. So even though we didn't get to do that in breakouts, we've done that in the last hour and a half, and I hope that it has been satisfying for you. One thing I've learned in recovery is when the script changes, you just roll with it, and you just make it work. And that's what we've done here. Technical things happen all the time. We expect them to happen. They're always disappointing, but we you know, when we get knocked down, we brush ourselves off, get ourselves up and get back on the stage. And so that's what we've done. And I'm so proud of all the people who've done all the behind the scenes work today to make this happen. And everyone's done an amazing job. So before we say goodbye, I wanted to take another moment to say thank you to everyone who joined us today. Your participation means more than you'll ever know. And we hope that we leave you both inspired and motivated to keep at your recovery journey and keep sharing it with other people and make this recovery movement as infectious as we know it needs to be and as infectious as we know it is. Because when two of us connect and when two or more of us connect, just amazing things happen. And we've all borne witness to that. Although there's only one more day in Recovery Month left, we know that it is an annual and lifetime event. Yeah, we talk about it in September. It's a great focus, but we live and breathe and act and do recovery 365 days a year throughout our lives. And that's just the way it works. So if there's one thing that you take away from this experience, I hope it's this, that you are not alone, regardless of your age, regardless of your stage of recovery, regardless of the place and station you're in your recovery journey, you are not alone. We're here with you. We have your back. The National Council, our co-hosting organizations, our sponsors, the entire recovery community, we are here for you. And we look forward to supporting you every step of the way, because that's what we do. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you again to all of our incredible speakers, the planning group, our sponsors, the National Council, and the National Council staff behind the scenes, making it all work. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. We are stronger together. We are better together. Today is a testament to the power of recovery and the importance of our unifying our voices, creating connections in person or virtually, and celebrating recovery. Sending good vibes as we sign off and go our separate ways, but know that we trudge forward together. Be safe and be well.
Thank you.
Bye, all. Great lunch.
Hey, Peter, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
Hey, Peter, thanks so much.
Oh, sure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Great
All right.
luncheon.
National
Great
Council. Thank you. Happy
Awesome.
Recovery Month.
Yes.
Thank you.
You guys were amazing. Great job.
Yay.
Absolutely.
Good day.